Alright, so I'm in Fusion 360 here. Fortunately, I designed my pieces in this program, and I say fortunately because I can actually get some information on the pieces, and specifically some crucial information for anodizing, which would be surface area, because the surface area is a factor that goes into calculating the voltage, the time, and the current that you have your power supply unit set to. And the time that you leave the pieces in the anodizing solution. So if I go to my pommel here and right click and go to properties, I get this little pop-up window that gives me some information. And right here you can see the area. So the surface area of this piece is 18.691 inches squared. So I'm going to hit OK. And then I'm going to go to the gear section and do the same thing. And here we see 17.46 inches squared. So I'm going to go to my calculator real quick. And we said 18.691 plus 17.46, I think, if I remember correctly, equals 36.151. So now, if I go over to my browser, I have this anodizing calculator open. So now I can put in, see, inches squared here, my number from here, 36.151. I want 1 mil. Let's see, I think I want to leave it in for about 90 minutes, so I'm going to put it to 0.75. Current density is 6, that's per square foot, and you can see I got about a quarter of a square foot. So I would set my current to 151 or 1.51 amps, and then the peak voltage at 15 volts. So I'll when I'm ready, I'll dial those numbers in to the power supply and let the anodize run for about 90 minutes. The first step for anodizing is probably, well, not probably, it's the most important. It's getting your pieces absolutely clean, whether you've machined them or not, or whether they're out of the bag from wherever you ordered them or whatever. It's important that you get them absolutely clean. You don't want any finger grease or hand grease, oils. You don't want any dust or dirt, any contaminants at all. You want the pieces absolutely clean. I recommend nitrile gloves. You can use vinyl, but they tear easily. I would not use latex because they generally have a coating, like a powder, so that they slide onto your hands easier. But that residue from those gloves will get onto the pieces, so I recommend nitrile gloves. Change them often in the process so that you have clean gloves. As you can see, this one's starting to get a little bit dirty. It's fine for now, but I will change these soon. I've done a little bit of cleaning. I use, you can use your girlfriend's or wife's toothbrush. Kidding, don't do that. But the solution here is about a 50-50 mix of water and simple green industrial degreaser cleaner. I'll try to remember to put links to certain things so that they're easily found. But again, just simple green and some water. And what you want to do is just get these things absolutely clean. Go in different directions, go in circles, up and down, side to side, get into all the crevices. And you're going to want to clean these things about 2 minutes at a time, maybe about 4 to 5 times. As I said, I've already done this maybe 2 rounds. So I got about 2 or 3 more rounds that I'm going to do to get these clean. You do want to get the inside. You may think, well, the inside doesn't really matter because nobody's going to see it, but that's not really the point. The point is that you, one, want to get the surface clean because any kind of oils will resist the anodizing. Two, you don't want contaminants in your anodizing bath because just is not good for the process. And if there's dirt floating around, a piece of dirt can get onto a piece, and it may not anodize very well. So just scrub these things. And then the rule is, I've seen others and watched other videos, the rule is when you think it's clean, clean it again. Not an exaggeration at all. Really, you want to get in there and get these things super clean. I did forget to mention this 50-50 mix is distilled water. So you know, go to your grocery store or convenience store and pick up a jug or two, because you're going to need a lot of it, of distilled water. So I'm not going to make you endure watching me do this several more times, but you know, just wanted to show you real quick and stress the point of getting your pieces absolutely clean. It's also a good way to get your threads clean. If you've done dry fitting of your build and you know have let these sit around and get dust or whatever, you can clean them with a toothbrush and some simple green, and then when you're ready for install, put your light grease on there and go at it. So let me finish these up, and we'll be back with the next step. Alright, so now that these things are clean, what I'm going to do is just take them off camera into a pan of distilled water. And rule of thumb for the video, if I just say water, it is distilled water. The whole process needs, you know, pure ingredients. So distilled water always. So I'm going to take these, rinse them off, and then let them sit in some distilled water until the next step. Next, what you want to do is prepare your anodizing bath, your solution, your electrolyte. Now, if you've done any research, you have probably found the traditional method, which is battery acid. However, we are not going to use battery acid. I am in a small apartment here and can't really ventilate any strong fumes from that process. So I'm going to do or use something that I found online, and again I'll post a link to my resources that I used, but you can also use what is well, this brand refers to it as Spa Down, but basically it's a pH, lowers the pH of water. So basically what this is it's sodium bisulfate. And if you look over here, it's 95%. So it's almost pure sodium bisulfate. So you can get this this brand online from Amazon. Can't remember how much it was, but it should be good for 2 to 3 baths of this size. So yeah, so anyway, basically what you want to do is a 20% solution, and what that means is for every 100 milliliters of water, distilled water, you would use 20 grams of the powder here. So I've done that measurement. I'm not going to do it on screen. I've already done it, and I'm not going to waste this just to mix up some more. But what you see here is what I'm using is cathodes. These are 2 sheets of aluminum that I've cleaned as well. So basically, when you're using this stuff, just use a respirator, because it is a powder, or dust mask, because you don't want to breathe it in. And also, just use gloves just to be safe. But when you're ready to mix it up, you can use warm water. You can warm up the water if you need to help it dissolve a little bit. But use a plastic or a wooden mixing tool and mix that up until it all dissolves. You can see there's no visible powder or grains or granulars in the bottom there. So once that's done and you've mixed that up, you want to rig up your parts. So you can use either aluminum or titanium. I think, I can't remember, it's been a while, but titanium I think is used because it doesn't anodize, so it will retain its contact and conductivity with the pieces that you have. So I have here some titanium wire that I'm going to use to rig up my pieces. So I'm just going to use this little bottle here to make a coil for the rigging. And the reason I do this is it creates an opportunity, let me straighten that out, for multiple points of contact in the piece. So we're not just making contact with like one or two areas, small areas. We're using it to create contact in multiple places. So there we go. I think we got it now. Get this back in there. All right. I think that should be good. Yeah. Okay. Now again, I can twist that up and hang it like that. But now I got multiple points of contact there, so that's good. Alright, so I got my pieces rigged up. You can see I used a couple popsicle sticks to span the length here and hang the pieces. I also connected the two pieces with some copper wire outside of the solution, and then have connected the positive from my power supply unit to the anode for anodizing. And then over here I have the cathodes connected with some alligator clips and copper wire. And then the cathode ground from the power supply is connected to that. For continuity, you can use your multimeter and set it to continuity, which is the beepy, the beep 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 setting, sound setting. And so when you have continuity, you'll get the sound there. So I'm going to check. And don't worry about that crackling. It's just basically I'm not using alligator clips to make a solid contact, but there is continuity there. And then for the cathodes, there you go. So it seems like everything should be good and running. So when I turn on the power supply, set to the settings that we saw that I calculated earlier, we should see a good amount of bubbles coming off of the cathodes. To note, when this is running, it does give off a little bit of gas. Do not put your face right over it. Wear a respirator or dust mask. Do not look right over it. Yeah, just be smart, be careful. So now I'll turn it on and I'll let it go for 90 minutes, so an hour and a half. And there we go. We got some bubbles coming off. I don't know how well they're showing up on camera, but they're definitely starting to generate. And it looks even from both sides. So that's a good first sign. So while this is going for the hour and a half that it's going to go, I'll move it around, I'll shake it up. I may tap it a little bit, just get air bubbles out, and you know, keep the material moving a little bit every once in a while, maybe every 5-10 minutes. And then also I will prepare the dye in distilled water and a pot of boiling water to seal the dye. So see you in an hour and a half. Just a little handheld side note here. You can see it's still going, but if you are using a power supply unit, I've read that it's better to use constant current than constant voltage. So the way to do that, if your power supply unit has a constant current protection on it, you just set your voltage up as high as it'll go. I think mine is 30 volts at 5 amps. So if you look over here, where the little red light says CC and the other one is OCP, that's overcurrent protection, constant current. You can see 151 from our calculation earlier, so it's holding at 151 because I've set the voltage way up. So that's how it regulates the constant current. So just keep that in mind. Constant current is, as I've read, better than constant voltage. I got about 25 minutes left, 25 or so left on the anodizing. So I'm gonna get the dye started and the boiling water to seal the dye after the dyeing process is done. I'm not going to show the boiling water. Basically, put it in the boiling water after dyeing and rinsing for maybe 20 minutes, 15 to 20 minutes. As far as dye is concerned, I have experimented with fabric dye. You may find online DIYers use fabric dye. RIT, you can find it in the grocery store or an art store maybe. I've experimented with it. Gives a really cool color, just has never given me black, so I only use it if I want like this will do a gunmetal, and this will do, actually if I can remember correctly, this does something like a little bit of a gunmetal, and then this is like a purplish gunmetal, or a gunmetal with like a slight purple tinge. But anyway, after I experimented with those, I went ahead and got professional anodizing dye from Caswell. You can find them online. This is black. It's quite expensive, so yeah, it's really up to you what you want to use. But the mixture between distilled water and dye will vary between whatever you use, so just use the directions that are given. This says add the whole thing, 4 ounces to 2 gallons. I got about a half gallon here, so I got a little over 1 ounce in here. Another handheld update. You can see I'm at 140 right now, so I'm going to try and maintain that. I just turn the knob down a little bit, and I'll keep checking. So trying to keep it at 140, and over here you can see we're still going strong. Alright, it's been an hour and a half, so I'm going to go ahead and shut off the power supply. You can see I'm down to about well, reflection, you may not be able to see it. I'm down to about 150, so I've turned the hot plate off just to let it cool down, and while I'm doing that, I'll go ahead and rinse the pieces. So I'm just going to turn that off. We'll give it a dunk and see what happens with these pieces. Alright, it's been about 20 minutes. It's hung at about 150, which is okay. I don't think it really hurts anything, but we'll take a look. And you can see they're not exactly black. They're more very dark gray. Now, I'm not sure. It's probably, I mean, obviously it's like, the pores didn't open up as much as they should have. So it could have been, any number of things, but it's probably the length of time that I left it in the bath. I should have probably gone a little bit longer. I doubt leaving this in the dye any longer is going to have any great effect. Well, what do you know? I doubted it, but the extra 20-25 minutes did yield more color. I'm actually quite pleased with how it turned out. It's not as rich or as dark as I expected, which is okay. I mean, that's, it's DIY anodizing at home using something other than and a little safer than battery acid. So the gear came out a little bit lighter than the pommel, and there are some color blotching, which could be dirt. Again, like I said, cleaning is extremely important, but they have a nice satin feel to them. They're protected, they're scratch resistant now, nice anodized layer. And I would say it's a shade lighter than black, if that makes any sense. So I'm sure the camera is not picking up a great color, but yeah, so it turned out okay. I'm pretty pleased with it. I'm gonna do a little bit of polishing with some aluminum polish. Let's see what happens with that. Generally, that is the process for getting DIY anodized parts. Sodium bisulfate, distilled water, clean, 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 and then once you're done that, clean, clean, clean more, and then do your calculations. I'll give links again to the calculator and to the article that I read to learn how to do this. I feel that I should give that gentleman credit. He's not part of our Saber community, but it is the resource that I used for my knowledge and my practice and testing. So I'll give you a link to that, and you can refer to his blog. And if you have questions, maybe you could ask him as well, because I was just on there and it looks like he's still being responsive. He did this, article a couple years ago, but he's still responding to people. So if you have questions, go ahead and shoot them over to him, because he knows a little bit more than I do. All right, done rambling. There you have it. Good luck, and any basic questions, I'm happy to help.